Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya. And each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive. Thanks for joining us again here today. Today we are going to dive into the hot topic once again of tariffs. So just yesterday, there was the looming threat of tariffs being imposed on Canadian exports to the United States. And then this morning, there was an announcement that that was again postponed for another 30 days. So because we're kind of going back and forth, maybe tariffs, maybe not tariffs, it's really nice that the economists have looked at what it could look like for Canada as a whole in the event that these tariffs do come into play. We're going to dive it down today and look a little bit more locally at the Sudbury economy and how we might be affected in the event that we do have tariffs imposed by the U.S. Absolutely. So, Tyler, you brought a really great article to our attention at the office, which was an article that came out by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce that looks at Sudbury's vulnerability in terms of ranking with respect to other large Canadian cities. Yeah. So how do we fare in Sudbury?
Yeah, okay, so the Chamber report came out and we're basically faring exactly the way we want to be faring, which is in last place of 41 out of 41 cities. So it went through all like the 41 biggest cities nationwide and we're 41st, meaning we are the most protected from tariffs, meaning we're basically the most diversified. But when you look at places like St. John, New Brunswick, most of their, like a huge percentage of what they're doing in their province goes to the States. So if the tariffs do come in, they will be in a way worse position than we will be. So we don't always want to be last on the list, except when the list is who's going to be most affected.
Yeah. This is the perfect list to be at the bottom of, right?
This is, yeah. When you're at the bottom, you're actually at the top.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at it, it kind of goes through what we export, how much we export to the States, and really everything we export across the world, only 11% of our exports go to the States, which is good, which is like basically the bottom of the list. Across the country, you go out to Calgary and where there's crude and oil and different kind of minerals. Mm-hmm. It's way higher percentage than we're experiencing in Sudbury.
Yeah, it looks like the cities that are highly dependent on energy exports, and probably I would assume the auto manufacturing industries as well, right? Yeah. They do a lot of cross-border trade and parts and bits go between one country to the other. And so therefore the auto industry and those cities like maybe Windsor might be really affected quite a bit from the trade tariffs. Yeah.
Windsor, Hamilton, that kind of golden horseshoe area is they're all in the hot spots. They're probably top 10 on the list.
Yeah. What I think is nice is what we've kind of seen things turn around here a little bit with the looming threat of the tariffs, and certainly having some of our cities being a lot more vulnerable to this effect. It's been kind of nice to see how Canadians and Canadian industries have changed and adapted just in the last few weeks. I think there's been a big drive for consumers to buy Canadian. I just heard yesterday there was an app that you can get that you can scan a product and see if it was if it was made in Canada. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
But even like walking through the grocery stores, like you're seeing the little tags made in Canada or produced in Canada. Like I find obviously throughout COVID, our nation was very divided, either for or against. But now we're kind of going like, oh, okay, there's an outside threat. We're all on the same team, and it's nice to see Canadian pride coming back, and like people are starting to get on the same bandwagon again, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, we even had a really good chat in the office the other day too about wine, right, and the different wine regions in Canada. Yeah. And I guess there's been a lot of trade barriers, interprovincial trade barriers. So Ontario is a very big wine producing region, and so is British Columbia, of course. And my understanding is that there's been quite a bit of a barrier between the two provinces to get their product products across the country in different retailers. And it looks like now there is a push for the provincial governments to decrease those trade barriers so that we can trade within our country ourselves.
And even the imports from, Europe, like Spain, Italy, like why are those wines cheaper? And it's basically because they have lesser of a tax burden to bring their products into Canada than our local wineries have putting them on the shelves.
Yeah, I know Ben's always been like, he's a big craft beer person. And it's amazing to see that you can get the beers that come in from like Germany and Czech that are less expensive than our Ontario craft beers. Yeah. Okay, so how do the threat of tariffs, right? We still don't have this actually coming into play yet. How is this going to affect the housing market? We're in the business of helping people get into homes, helping people invest in real estate. How is this going to affect our local and our national real estate market?
Well, although we just said we're kind of insulated in Sudbury, obviously we're not 100% insulated. There's still going to be effects, especially with like a decrease in economy, a loonie that's getting worse and worse day by day, basically. One thing that will happen, obviously, they'll want to stimulate the spending. Interest rates are going to drop quite a bit. They're going to probably go back to COVID levels. But I think it's just about, the economy. If it stays semi-strong, and Sudbury is pretty insulated when you're seeing, 30% decreases in, Toronto and Vancouver. You're not seeing those here. So I think we're going to fare okay. But just like we had a top RBC exec in our office yesterday, we were chatting with him. He goes, it might be the first time in a long time where we actually, have to save and have to, worry about what we're spending our money on. But he said, especially like Sudbury's a great market. It's still affordable, and it's good compared to our household income. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing, spreading the good word of how safe we are in Sudbury, but at the same time, we might not have to buy the boats and the quads and the sleds and all the goodies that are depreciating over time, and you might have to put a little bit more money into the household.
It was really interesting to hear his perspective and to have that discussion with our agents in our office with him. It was really nice to hear, talking about the fact that we could be in the position where we're the first recession in a generation, right? Even the 2008 housing recession that impacted the US a lot harder than it impacted Canada. We were a little bit insulated from that. And this might be, if we do fall into a recession, the first time this generation has seen a recession, and how, our citizens are going to have to maybe pull back, like you said, on the spending of the additional things, the toys, the quads, the additional trips perhaps, and sort of pull back on their spending. But as a whole, it looks like you said, Sudbury will be rather insulated. We may see some job losses, of course, if we do fall into a recession. If there's less demand for products, there's going to be less demand for, our exports, mining, and everything that we produce here in Sudbury. So certainly we could see a bit of a pullback, but, just like you said, the bank in Canada is going to respond with a stimulus in order to combat those recessionary trends. And they're going to likely decrease those interest rates, which will then make borrowing more affordable for Canadians across the board. And it was really nice to get his perspective. He had come from British Columbia and he travels across the country and hears about the different real estate markets across the country. And for an outsider, we talk about it locally as real estate professionals, how affordable our city actually is for people to live in. But to have someone, a professional like that, come in and, go through the numbers with us and talk about and discuss it on a greater level, it's really encouraging to see that we do have a very affordable lifestyle here in Sudbury. Yeah. And a beautiful lifestyle, right? I mean, we're surrounded by 330 some lakes. Mm-hmm. It's a great place to live and grow. And certainly, just having that insulation from a potential recession is a real positive factor moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're in a good position. Obviously, we don't want the tariffs to come, but if they did, we would fare fairly well.
Fairly well. There is a little bit of a concern, however, though, if we look at the increase of cost of materials, and if we have home builders who are maybe taking a step back and not developing properties, that we could be in a position where still maybe housing maybe we don't have enough listings to meet the demand.
Yeah, we don't have, especially if they come in, we don't have enough, like the cost of goods will be too high for the builders to build. It just won't be affordable anymore. It's still like basically the cheapest new build you can get if it's a single family is like $800,000. So if, you know, a 25% tariff, that's $1 million now. So it's a different game, but I think it'll slow down on there. But at the same time, like, why are we shipping our steel and our wood to the States and getting it shipped back? Like, can we cut some of that cost and deal with it here?
Yeah.
And, you know, instead of shipping it out, keeping the good grade A stuff for our local builders and the people that need it around, across the country.
There was also an interesting discussion we had about modular homes as well, which is, you know, maybe that is a trend that we will see with construction costs. You know, factory built homes, you know, we're not talking mobile homes, we're talking modular construction built in factories. And if we can maybe control some of those goods, like you say, those raw materials that go into home building, and we control the building process. You know, there are some larger scale home builders here in Canada, certainly in Quebec and in New Brunswick as well, that we could maybe sort of mitigate, I suppose, those increasing costs by building them in factories and then shipping into the developments. Yeah. Well, we shall see.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So the terrible tariffs are put off until April 2nd, potentially. So we'll see what March brings. Hopefully we just keep pushing it from May to June to July. And it just never comes.
Every month we'll have an updated podcast. Yeah. Are the tariffs going to come? We shall see. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning into the TNT podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a comment, subscribe, and share with a friend who might be interested in real estate.
We'll catch you next time, and until then, stay ahead in real estate.